It's one thing to feel indignant and angry about injustice, but it's something else to actively take up a cause, especially if you're fighting on behalf of others.
Omar Badsha wasn't afraid to stand up to apartheid oppression and worked tirelessly in support of the trade union movement in Natal.
A talented artist, he used photography to document and publicize the struggle for freedom, and a recent retrospective exhibition presented his work to his old comrades and a new audience.
Omar Badsha is one of South Africa's most celebrated documentary photographers. He has exhibited extensively worldwide and is considered one of the pioneers of resistance art in the early 1960s. Currently on at Iziko's South African National Gallery is a major exhibition of Omar Badsha's drawings, cutouts and photographic essays, some of which are being shown for the first time. It was indeed an honor to have met up with this award-winning artist and political activist.
In the latter part of the 19th century, French artists were among the first to popularize the idea of art for art's sake. A little less than a century later, a young South African artist, author and photographer used his creative talents for anything except artistic purposes. His name is Omar Badsha, and over the years he earned the respect as an artist and an opponent of oppression. His work is now to be seen in a major retrospective exhibition, and I'm really looking forward to viewing his art and meeting the activist behind it.
Born in Durban, Omar is a third-generation South African of Indian origin. His father, Ibrahim Badsha, was one of the country's pioneer black artists and played a formative role in Omar's politicized upbringing. Omar himself became an anti-apartheid activist during his high school days and went on to play a significant role in the country's liberation struggle.
Mr. Badsha, welcome to Mela.
Thank you very much.
Did you ever foresee that the camera would have been used as a teaching tool for you or to document history for the future generations?
It came naturally. We didn't see it as something special. The period that we're living in, you used every avenue to put out your message and to train people. You had to reproduce yourself so that if you are taken out with a band or you have to go into exile or heaven forbid you're killed, there's another layer of people. That was the ethos.
For many years, Omar, who came under continued harassment from the security forces, was denied a passport to travel or study abroad. Finally, in the 1990s, he was given a passport, and soon he started a project to document life in his grandparents' ancestral village of Tadkeshwar, a small town in Gujarat, India.
When you were able to travel to India and you went to your ancestral village, take us through that experience.
Well, firstly, when I got this opportunity to go to India and supported by the Indian government, the High Commissioner then said, would you like to? I said, yes. So I thought about this and I said, no, what I would like to do, because of my interest in history, is to follow the people in Gujarat in particular, say take 10 families. But I just realized that, India is something else. It's too huge. So at the end of the day, I just decided, look, I'm just going to cover the villages around Tadkeshwar where my grandparents come from.
Well, do you mind taking me through some of your work?
Oh, no, it's a pleasure. I would like to choose this picture, this moment where you see this child sitting on his own, just thinking about something or other. He's very deep in thought about something or other. But then you see the layers of class divisions of these very poor, very, very poor people who are migrants, who move from other states to come and work in these villages. They are domestic workers, but you can see the conditions in which they work and live. I was one morning walking through the village and the women are washing clothes, and I walked towards one particular woman who was carrying a basket with washed clothes, and she smiled and greeted me, and I greeted her. I actually took a picture, asked her. She said, yes. That evening, I'm invited for supper. And she's there, and then she says, "Bye, you know who I am? I'm your mother's cousin."
What are the chances?
This, in fact, is a photograph of my father's cousin. Here now, I go to Surat. This is a couple of days before Christmas. And it's this huge shopping mall. And then I saw this child just breaking away from the rest and the parents and moving towards the window. For me, it shows the culture of Hollywood seeping into India. The globalization is overtaking India.
Omar was passionate about his work for the unions, and photography became a strategic intervention in how the South African struggle against apartheid was seen. Omar and his contemporaries refashioned South Africa in the global eye, not as photographers, but rather as political subjects who were part of the fight for freedom. In so doing, they witnessed endurance, resistance, and survival, and gained access into the everyday life of the anti-apartheid movement.
This particular picture, for me, it's unlike the normal Mandela picture, because here, he's at the funeral of his closest friend, Walter Sisulu. So it's a very poignant picture for me of this warmth of the man, but at the same time stoic in his demeanor, accepting the death of his closest friend.
Omar recalls that few commercial galleries were open to exhibiting the works of black photographers unless it supported white supremacy. Yet he continued documenting the country's political climate and its many heroes.
Here, Oliver Tambo, Winnie Mandela and Mrs. Tambo at the 1991 conference in singing in full flight.
His most prized work is A Letter to Farzana, which he says was to serve as a record and a lamentation for the country to which his first daughter Farzana was born into. Published in 1979, A Letter to Farzana commemorates the International Year of the Child and includes images of both black and white South African children.
Yeah, this is a picture a couple of days, less than a week after Farzana was born. Nasima and I took her to my granny.
Tell us more about Farzana. How did she inspire you?
Her birth and the photograph of her and her granny is considered to be, for many people, quite an iconic picture now.
Let's meet Farzana. Farzana, share with us some of your earliest memories of your dad.
Some of my most interesting early memories are of him looking at pictures, actually. Laying them out on the floor in our lounge and moving them around and editing exhibitions like that.
The post-1994 generation hasn't had any first-hand experience of apartheid. Do you feel that exhibitions such as these makes it all the more important?
I think it is an important opportunity to show young people what life was like. But I think it's also particularly important because it doesn't just show the negative sides. It doesn't just show people as poor and violence. It's about reminding people that they have a rich history and a rich culture. So it's a way to access our past, but it's also a way to think about our present.
His images are not necessarily beautiful. They're not meant to be. Many of them are haunting reminders of those that apartheid excluded and reveal the extraordinary lengths to which the regime went to in order to take away land, dignity, and the ability of people to earn a living. In the words of Professor Ari Sitas, Badsha could do in one picture what a dozen history workshops couldn't, in terms of the detail that captured the texture of life and the social history of a people.
Omar Badsha didn't set out to create objects of beauty, but to portray the truth. The poet Keats wrote, "Beauty is truth, truth in beauty." And Omar Badsha's work shows an honesty in beauty in its truthfulness.